You thought this season couldn't get any worse. Y'all are out of your minds. Because what just happened with this team is absolutely brutal. We've got the top edge rusher prospect in the country on our radar. We're leading the NFL in a stat that Dan Quinn absolutely hates. And we've got decisions that need to be made right now if we want to be contenders again. This ain't just another season. This is a turning point for the future of the Commanders. You in or you out? Because I'm telling you right now, what happens in 2026 will decide whether we rise back to glory or sink even deeper. Don't go anywhere, this is just getting started. After years of watching this team struggle without a true elite pass rusher, we finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm not talking about just any prospect. I'm talking about David Bailey, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech, who just torched Oregon in the college football playoff. Our scouts were there, live at the Orange Bowl, watching exactly what we've all been dying to see. A player who can completely transform a defense. And here's the wildest part, Bailey isn't just the best pass rusher in the 2026 draft. He's leading the entire nation in pressures, sacks, and QB hits this season. You get how massive that is. While the Cowboys are scrambling to find someone who can generate pressure, and the Eagles are still relying on aging vets, we've got a shot at drafting the next NFC East nightmare. Let me paint the picture for you. 6'3", 250 pounds, long arms that let him control offensive tackles with ease, and that explosive first step that gives quarterbacks nightmares. First drive against Oregon? Sack. First drive. You think that's a fluke? I'm telling you right now, that kind of killer instinct is what separates the good from the great. But here's what really gets me hyped. Bailey isn't just a third down pass rusher. Against Oregon, one of the best run offenses in the country, he showed he can stop the run too. He's got a run-stop rate of 8.4%, which puts him in the top tier of all college defensive ends. And at just 22 years old, he's only scratching the surface of his physical potential. Remember when Chase Young was the great hope for this defense? Well, Bailey might be better. He's got the speed to beat tackles outside, the power to bull rush inside, and the pass rush toolbox that forces offensive coordinators to build entire game plans just to slow him down. Now I know what some of y'all are thinking, but can he play all three downs? And that's where Bailey separates himself from those one-trick pass rushers. Against Oregon, he didn't just bring constant pressure. He had multiple pass deflections at the line, forced a pick in the third quarter with his pressure, and stayed disciplined in his run fits. Adam Peters' scouts were locked in, breaking down every move, every technique, every decision Bailey made in that game. And after what we saw this season with our non-existent pass rush, this is the kind of player who can take a defense from average to dominant dot. But is Bailey the only option? Not exactly. Reuben Bain Jr. also had a monster game against Ohio State. Bain plays with more power. He's better against the run, but he doesn't have Bailey's raw speed or pass rush arsenal. It's the classic debate. More complete player versus elite specialist. I'm telling you, we need the specialist. We need someone who can rack up 12 to 15 sacks a season, force quarterbacks to get the ball out early, and wreck entire game plans. That guy is David Bailey. Now here's the tricky part. With our draft position, will we even have a shot at him? After this disaster of a season, we should be picking in the top 10, maybe even top 5. But with teams like the Giants, Panthers, and others also desperate for pass rushers, it's going to be a dogfight, Dot. So I ask you this. If Bailey is on the board when we pick, is there even another option? Do we take another offensive tackle? A corner? A wide receiver? Because I'm telling you, if you can't pressure the quarterback, none of that other stuff matters. You could have the best secondary in the league, but if the QB has all day to throw, someone's getting open. This is the decision that will define the Dan Quinn and Adam Peters era. Are they going to be bold and take the best player available? Or play it safe and draft for need that doesn't move the needle? Because after watching Bailey dominate Oregon, I've already made up my mind about who our first-round pick should be. If that last part shocked you, wait till you hear this, because what's coming is devastating for our hopes died after years of dysfunction. We thought we finally had structure, discipline, a head coach who knew how to win in this league. But guess what? We've got the worst false start problem in the entire NFL. 30 false starts in one season. And that's not even the worst part those 30 false starts killed. 17 full drives. You get what that means? We've basically given away more than a full game's worth of possessions on completely avoidable mistakes. We're not talking about holding calls when a defender makes a slick move. We're talking about jumping before the snap. Before the snap. Dan Quinn owned up to it this week. The ones we can control at the line of scrimmage. That's a big issue. And he's right. Because when you add those 30 false starts to 3 delay of game penalties, 3 illegal shifts, and 25 holdings, we're talking nearly 40 pre-snap penalties, plus holdings that kill 5 more drives. I'm telling you, this isn't just a discipline issue. This is a culture problem. When Josh Cornerly Jr., a rookie offensive tackle, leads the team in penalties, okay, we get it. He's learning. But when Marshon Lattimore, a multiple-time Pro Bowler who hasn't played since November, is second on the team with 9 penalties, that's a systemic issue. And the most frustrating part, Quinn said there was a stretch in November where things got better. Penalties dropped. Discipline improved. It looked like we found our identity. Then what happened? 11 penalties against the Giants in December. 10 more against the Cowboys. 2 double-digit penalty games in a 4-game divisional stretch dot. So I ask you, how does a team that was in the NFC Championship last year with the same head coach and many of the same players suddenly forget how to play disciplined football? How does Laramie Tunsil, a Pro Bowl tackle, rack up 8 penalties? How does Javon Kinlaw, fresh from the 49ers where Kyle Shanahan doesn't tolerate this stuff, also have 8? I believe this goes beyond individual players. This is about coaching, preparation, and team culture. And when Quinn calls out Brandon Coleman for a couple of those the last 2 weeks, giving him 5 on the year, we're seeing a pattern that can't continue. But here's the real scary part. Quinn also admitted that between penalties and turnovers, those are the 2 areas that haven't improved the way we need to play winning football. And the numbers back it up. We've had 21 giveaways this season, putting us in the bottom 10 in the league. You know what that means? Between false starts, holdings, and turnovers, we've basically thrown away 4 full games worth of possessions. We're not losing because the other teams are better. We're losing because we're beating ourselves. The Cowboys are loving it every time we play them. They don't have to do anything special to win. Just wait for us to self-destruct. The Eagles don't even need a special game plan. Just play their game and wait for us to give the ball away or kill our own drives with penalties. And here's what's got me most worried heading into 2026. Quinn says, we've got to get it right. But what's the actual plan? More practice? Different drills? Fines for players? Because whatever they're doing now clearly isn't working. This is one of those problems you can't just draft your way out of. You can't sign a free agent who magically makes your team more disciplined. This takes a fundamental shift in how the team prepares, how they practice, and what consequences there are for players who keep making the same mistakes. And you know what really grinds my gears? Injuries played a role in this season's collapse, no doubt. But you can't blame injuries for false starts. You can't blame injuries for delay of game penalties. These are mental lapses, lack of focus, and they're costing us games. So I ask you, do you trust Quinn to fix this in one off season? Or is this a sign that we need deeper changes in the coaching staff? Because if we roll into 2026 with the same discipline issues, this window to compete is going to slam shut faster than it opened. And just when you thought we were done, let me tell you, what's coming next is what's really going to determine whether we become contenders again or slide into being just another forgettable NFC team. We, the Commanders faithful, know that. After decades of organizational chaos, we finally have Adam Peters and Dan Quinn running the show. But this season proved that having good leadership isn't enough. We need action. We need bold changes. And we need them now. The first New Year's resolution this team must follow through on is hiring a new defensive coordinator. And I'm not talking about promoting someone from within. I'm not talking about bringing in another one of Quinn's buddies from his Atlanta or Dallas days. I'm talking about going after the best candidate available, whether Quinn knows him or not. Joe Witt Jr. has to go. Now, not after some evaluation period. Not after seeing what happens in free agency. Right now, because every day Witt stays as DC is a day wasted in preparing for 2026. Quinn should be interviewing Al Harris in Chicago, calling up soon-to-be-fired head coaches, and ready to spend whatever it takes to bring in someone who can fix this defensive mess. Here's why this is so critical. It doesn't matter if we draft David Bailey. It doesn't matter if we sign the best free agent defensive tackle out there. If the defensive system is broken, none of that will matter. We need a coordinator who can maximize talent, make in-game adjustments, and put our players in a position to succeed. The second resolution, and this one's huge. Adam Peters needs to spend money this offseason. Yeah, I know that's the opposite of what most of us do in January, but this team needs to open the checkbook. Last year, Peters played it way too safe. He went bargain hunting, signing vets on their last legs, budget deals that look good on paper. And guess what? It blew up in our faces. No more retirement tour signings. No more. Let's see if he's got anything left in the tank. We need young, ascending players who are hungry to win a Super Bowl. According to Over the Cap, we're projected to have top 5 cap space in the league. Top 5. Do you know how many teams would kill for that kind of flexibility? And we can't waste it by being conservative again. We need to go after the best corners, the best D linemen, the best interior O linemen. This roster has massive holes that need to be filled with elite talent, not projects. I'm telling you right now, if Peters plays it safe again in free agency, we're going to be having the same conversation next year. Because you don't build a Super Bowl contender by being cheap. The Eagles didn't win theirs by being conservative. The Chiefs didn't build a dynasty with budget signings. You've got to be willing to pay for elite talent when it's available. The third resolution is simple but critical. This roster needs to stay healthy. And yeah, injuries are part of the game, but the number of games missed by Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, and other key starters this year, that wasn't normal. That wasn't bad luck. That was a pattern that needs to be addressed. Daniels needs to work on knowing when not to run. He's got to keep building up his frame. He's got to understand he can't play like a running back. He wants a long career in this league. And the training staff needs to take a hard look at how they're practicing, how they're prepping players, and what's different that led to so many injuries. Because here's the truth. You can have the best roster on paper, but if your top guys aren't on the field, it doesn't matter. And this year proved that. When Daniels was healthy, we were competitive. When McLaurin was out there, the offense clicked. But once the injuries started piling up, everything fell apart. And now we get to the toughest resolution of all. Dan Quinn needs to get out of his comfort zone. And yeah, this one's going to sting for some folks, but it's the truth. Quinn needs to stop hiring his friends. He needs to stop bringing in vets he knows from past teams. He needs to stop treating this like a social club and start building a real football team. This team felt more like a group of buddies than a professional squad this season. And Quinn took way too long to make changes that needed to happen. He was too loyal to underperforming players, too patient with coaches who weren't getting it done. And you know what? That can't happen in 2026. Because next year is make or break for Quinn. If he has another season like this one, his time in Washington is over. And he needs to act like he knows that. He's got to be willing to make the hard calls, fire friends if he has to, and bring in people he doesn't know if they're the best for the job. So I ask you, which of these resolutions is the most important? Honestly, I think they're all connected. You can't fix the tents without a new coordinator. You can't fill roster holes without spending money. You can't compete without staying healthy. And you can't do any of it if Quinn isn't willing to change his approach. The Giants are in full rebuild mode. The Cowboys are in organizational chaos. The Eagles have serious questions about their quarterback and their future. This is OUR window. This is our chance to take over the division for the next 5 to 7 years with Daniels entering his prime. But it's only going to happen if we follow through on these resolutions. It's only going to happen if Peters gets aggressive in free agency. It's only going to happen if Quinn brings in the best defensive coordinator available. It's only going to happen if we stay healthy. And it's only going to happen if Quinn is willing to make tough changes. I believe we've got the core pieces to be a Super Bowl contender. We've got Daniels, who showed in last year's playoffs that he can hang with anyone. We've got McLaurin, one of the best receivers in the league. We've got cap space. We've got draft picks. We've got everything we need to succeed. What we don't have is time to waste, because in this league, windows close fast. 1 lost year becomes 2. 2 becomes 3. And suddenly, Daniels is in year 5. McLaurin's thinking about leaving. And we're back in rebuild mode. So these aren't just New Year's resolutions. These are mandates. These are the things that have to happen if we want to get back to where we were last year. And I, for one, will be watching every move Peters and Quinn make this offseason, because the future of this franchise depends on it. Look, Commanders family, I know this season was rough. I know a lot of you are frustrated, angry, disappointed. But here's the thing. We're not the kind of fans who jump ship when things get tough. We're the fan base that survived Dan Snyder, that lived through decades of dysfunction, that never stopped believing. And now we've got a real shot to build something special. But I need y'all to stick with us. I need you to keep being part of this community, this family. Because when we get back to the playoffs, when we win the division, when we finally hoist that Lombardi trophy, it's going to be that much sweeter knowing you were here through the hard times. So here's what I need from you. Do you think we should draft David Bailey? Do you agree that Quinn needs to fire Witt? Do you think Peters should be more aggressive in free agency? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your takes, your ideas, your frustrations. And if you're not subscribed to this channel yet, what are you waiting for? Because I promise you, this offseason is going to be full of breaking news. Every free agency move, every draft rumor, every coaching staff shakeup, we'll be covering it all. You do not want to miss what's coming. Hit that LIKE button if you think Bailey should be our first-round pick. Subscribe if you believe we need a new defensive coordinator. And comment with your #1 resolution for the Commanders in 2020-6. Because this is more than just a YouTube channel. This is a community. This is a family. And together, we're going to watch this team rise back to greatness. And remember, hail to the Redskins.